This is our third production and costs mini lecture. This one is going to go over the difference between the short run and the long run and briefly discuss diminishing marginal returns. We're going to spend some time going over the difference between the short run and the long run and going over diminishing marginal returns because it helps us understand how firms make their decisions. Remember, there is a difference between the short run and the long run. As John Maynard Keynes, who is a famous dead white guy, said, the difference between the short run and the long run is that in the short run, some goods exhibit nominal price rigidities, whereas in the long run, we're all dead. Economists differentiate between the short run and the long run because there are a couple of different key differences that make us change our production decisions. The short run is the period of time during which at least some factors of production are fixed. The long run is the period over which all factors are variable. So our short run has the limitation that the only way to change how much we're producing is to change our variable outputs. So you have a graph on the right-hand side of your screen here that shows short-run total production for trees and short-run marginal product for trees. So since capital is fixed in the short run, the production function then becomes quantity is a function of labor, and you'll notice capital there is in bold, so a fixed amount of capital, or we could just abbreviate it as quantity is a function of labor, because we take the amount of capital as given. That is, changing the amount of output depends only on changing the amount of labor employed. One thing I want you to note is that the total product tends to increase, but it increases at a decreasing rate. So as we add more lumberjacks, yeah, we get more trees cut, but every lumberjack after the second one is worth less than the one before him. That's because there's only a fixed amount of capital. So the first lumberjack has all the material he needs. The second lumberjack adds some efficiency. The third lumberjack still allows us to cut down more trees, but at that point, it might be that we don't have enough capital for each of them to share efficiently. By the time we get to our fifth lumberjack, probably we may only have 3 to 4 saws or 3 to 4 of those pulley things to pull a tree down with. You know, those ropey things that you wrap around the trunk and pull on. You know what I'm talking about. And he may have to wait to use some of that capital. So we're spreading the capital more thinly across each additional worker. Marginal product is defined as the additional output when you add one more worker. Mathematically, what we call marginal product of labor, because we're adding more workers, is the change in total product divided by the change in labor. Be very careful not to just take quantity and divide by labor. That's your average product. Marginal means we're looking at the increase in quantity divided by the increase in workers. 0 workers produce 0 trees. Right? The marginal product of the first worker is 6 trees per day. I'm sorry, 4 trees per day. However, the second worker, when we go from 1 worker to 2, we go from 4 trees to 10 trees. So our second worker adds 10 minus 4, that is 6 trees per day. Let's add a third lumberjack. When we add a third lumberjack, our total product rises from 10 to 12. So the marginal product of labor for the third lumberjack is 12 minus 10. That's 2 trees. And if you look at the graph on the bottom, you'll see marginal product comes out to 2 for our third worker. Diminishing marginal product is a factor that we notice when we add more workers. Each worker allows us to produce more goods, but the increase is smaller than it previously was. The law of diminishing product says that our production will still increase, but increase at a decreasing rate in the short run. That again is because of the fixed amount of capital. You're spreading the same amount of capital more thinly across more workers. It gets to a point where you have so many workers, you may need to add more capital in order to allow them to produce efficiently. Goods that have diminishing marginal product, you can see we have total product upstairs on the right side of the screen. They have that bending, not downward, but bending upward at a slower rate shape, that kind of hump-shaped curve. And marginal product tends to be decreasing after a certain amount. So ask yourself, what's the difference between total product and marginal product? And what is diminishing marginal productivity? Why do workers have diminishing marginal products?